Okay, welcome back. So last time we created this save and load system here, where as soon as we hit play, the data gets loaded in, and if I make a change, for example, if I make something else active that wasn't active before, and then exit out, that gets saved, and then when I enter back in, then that's going to load in with the change. There is something that was pointed out in the comments last time that I made a mistake on, and that is in the GameData script. So if you want to open that up really quickly here. So in the GameData script, down here in the save method, this should be file stream file equals file.open application.persistent data path, and then backslash and whatever you want to call your file. I did player.dat, but you can do hot.dog or whatever, and then comma, this should be file mode.create, not file mode.open. So file mode.create. File mode.create will check to see if the file already exists. If it does, it will overwrite it, and if the file doesn't exist, it will just create one. So don't be kind of scared off by the fact that this says create. If one already exists, it overwrites it. Which is what we want. So cool. Now, what we want is we want this save data, this game data, to be referenced in the game itself. Right now we have it so that it is correctly saving and loading, but we want, when we actually start up the game, for this piece right here, for example, to be active if it's active, and then for the rest of these to not be active. We also want the stars to reflect how many stars the player has collected on the level. So let's do that. First, let's deal with the active part, only showing active when it should be active. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to find our level button script right here. We're going to open that up, and then first we need to make a reference to the game data, or did I call it game control? Oh, that's from another version. First we need to make a reference to our game data. So in level button, let's see, I've got my active stuff. Let's see, let's put a header here. Level UI, we'll call that. And then down here, I'll make a private reference to game data. And then I'll complete that reference in the start method. There's only ever going to be one of these, so this should work just fine. So game data equals find object of type. And the type we want to find is game data. And there we go. Now, when let's do with the decide sprite part first here. And so right now, our decide sprite is only checking to see if it's active, which means that we need to have something that comes before decide sprite that is going to say whether or not it's active. And so I'm going to create a new little method here, and I'm going to call this void. Let's call this load data. And this is going to change whether or not it's active, and then also say how many stars should be active. So I need to have an integer for how many active stars there are. So here, underneath my stars image, I'm going to add, actually I'm going to add it to the end. I'm going to say private int stars active. How about? Yeah, this should actually probably, this is silly for me to be so nitpicky about it, but it should probably go underneath the active stuff header. There we go. Alright, so now I'm going to call my load data from the start method before I call any of the others, because there is an order of operations to this. And then when we load our data, first let's check the game data. So is game data present? Question mark. If so, then, so if game data is not equal to null, then we want to decide if the level is active. So what we're going to do is we're going to check in the game data, and inside game data we're going to check our save data, and we're going to check the is active that applies to this level, and if that is active then we're going to set the whole level to be active. So we're going to say if game data dot save data dot is active, and the is active we want to get is level -1. Yeah, because if this is level 1 we want to check the 0 index, and if it's level 2 we want to check the 1 index. Then we're going to say is active equals true. Okay, cool. And if it's not, else is active equals false. Alright, so that's deciding if the level is active. Then we also need to decide how many stars we should have. Decide how many stars to activate. So if game data, actually, let's say that our number of stars, and I already forgot what I called that variable, stars active. So instead of just doing an if in here, we're going to say stars active is equal to game data dot save data dot stars, and we want to check the stars for level -1. Okay, cool. So that's going to load in the data based on the game data. After that, we're going to activate stars, and we might as well cover this right now. So I have my little comment here, come back to this when the binary file is done. Binary file is done. So, okay, so for int I is less than stars.enabled equals false. Let's do this a different way. Let's say stars.enabled equals true. And then we'll just make all the stars disabled back in the game itself. So in the game itself, I'm going to look at my canvas. As soon as this is done compiling, it'll let me do this. My canvas, my level select inside that, my level select grid. I'm just going to take all of them but the first and delete them, because this is just going to make my life easier. And then I'm just going to go through this one that's left and set all of my stars, not the star holder, but the star itself. I'm going to set all of these to be inactive. And then I'm going to take my level prefab, I'm going to duplicate it 8 times. Alright, cool. So now, let's hit play, and let's see if that worked. Oh, okay, cool, didn't work. Let's go in here and let's look at our game data and let's find out why it didn't work. So is active, high scores, stars. So only the first one should be active. Is there any, oh yeah, holy cow. Level button load data, so line 42. And I got that 9 times, which means I got it for each of them. So if game data.save data, did I actually think ahead and put this as level 0? No, I put it as level 1. Game data.save data.isActive 0. Huh. Index out of range. So index out of range means that I'm trying to grab something that's outside of the index, or what the thingy thing allows. But if I'm grabbing 1 minus 1, I'm grabbing 0, which isn't outside of that. So what is the issue? I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So that was 2 dumb errors. First of all, this has to do with script execution order. So my game data script was created after my leveled button script, which means that in general, Unity is going to run through the start method in the level button before it runs through the start method in the game data. Now I can change that by changing the script execution order. However, it's probably just a simpler fix to go into game data and move my load method from start to awake. So I'm just going to cut that from there and paste it into awake. Now the next thing I want to do is in my level button here, the other error I made is when I'm activating stars, I'm enabling them, but the way that I disabled them, let's go back here, the way that I disabled them was by turning off the actual game object, which is not great. If I want to use enabled, then I should only be disabling a single component and not the entire game object. So I'm going to let's do that again. So I'm going to pick my 3 stars here, star 1, star 2, and star 3. I'm going to enable the game object, but disable the image script, which will give me the same effect. However, .enable will bring this back. Otherwise, I have to reference the game object and set the game object active. I mean, it's 601, half a dozen of the other as to which is actually better. But there we go. So there's that. And I'm going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 copies of my prefab. And then another small error I made here is I need to make sure that each of these represents the level it should be. Since I just copied this, I made them all level 1. So I want to make this level 2, this one level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, level 7, level 8, and the last one is level 9. So then back here in my script, when I'm activating my stars, instead of just going for I less than stars.length, this should be I less than stars active. That was the whole point of me putting that stars active in there. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back to Unity and let this compile for a second, and then we'll give this a try. So there we go. Giving this a play here. Alright, cool. So our game data says that level 1 should be active. It should have a high score of 10, which we're going to deal with in a second with the confirm panel, and that we should have only 1 star active. So this has 1 star active. Now if we click on this, we haven't done anything to the confirm panel yet. So the confirm panel doesn't have its stars active properly. We also don't have our high score. So let's fix that. Now I want to look at the confirm panel script, and I'm going to do something very, very similar to what I just did to the level button. So I'm going to make a reference to the game data. So private game data, I'm just going to call that game data, and then I'm going to reference that in the start method. Game data is equal to find object of type, the type of game data. And then here I'm activating stars, so before I activate stars, I'm just going to use that load data method that I had for the level button. So void load data. And then for the level button here, I don't need to worry about the if it's, the save data stuff, the is active, because they would only be able to get to the confirm panel if is active was true. So instead, I'm just going to worry about the number of stars that should be displaying. So I'm going to add that up here. So I'm going to add a private integer for stars active. And then I'm going to say if game data is not equal to null, then I'm going to say stars active is equal to game data dot save data dot stars, and we want to get the stars for level -1. Back in Unity here, and I forgot to do another thing. So on my level prefabs, I changed it so that they reflect the correct level. For example, here this is level 1, and when I push the button it goes to level 1, but I forgot to change that for the rest of these. So this should be level 2, 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, level 7, level 8, and level 9. Alright, cool. So now the other thing I need to do is find my confirm panel here and make sure that I'm referencing, when I'm referencing the stars, I'm turning the image part disabled instead of turning the actual game object disabled. So let's just open these up. Star, star, star. And let's disable the image. And let's disable the confirm panel again. Go back into Visual Studio. And when I activate stars, this shouldn't be stars.length. This should be stars active. And instead of making them false, we're going to make them true. Alright, cool. So this is going to deal with the stars and with whether or not they should be active. The next thing we have to deal with is the high score, and then also saving the level data back once you finish a level. So click on this, 1 star active. Now I'm going to add 2 more text boxes. One here, which is going to reference the high score, and one here just to say blank out of blank. So let's do that. Back in my scene here, I'm going to make my confirm panel active again. I'm going to go to my stats panel, and I'm going to make child of this some text, and I'm going to move this text up to where I want it to be, and I'm also going to reset the anchors to be right around that box. If you're using a separate UI plugin, I'm sure this is a lot easier, but you kind of want to go with all free tools. So I'm going to make this all zeros just so that I know it's going to work. Choose best fit. I'm going to make it bold and bright white, and let's make that best fit bigger. So best fit is going to fit the box, but it's going to be constrained by 2 sizes of the text. The minimum text size is 10 point, and the maximum text size by default is 40. I'm going to make this bigger. Let's try 80. It's probably, that's probably okay. So there's that, and I'm going to rename this text box to be high score text. And then I'm going to make another text box in the stats panel. So UI text. Same thing with that. I'm going to put it down here with the stars. And I'm going to move the anchors to refit. Okay. And I'm going to make this all zeros. Actually, we'll call it 0/0. Make it bold. Center it in both directions. Make it white. Best fit, and we'll say the maximum of this is also 80. Alright, cool. So I'm going to disable the confirm panel here. I'm going to go back into Visual Studio. In my confirm panel script, I'm going to make a reference to those 2 text boxes I just created. So let's make this a little bit neater. So we'll make a header level information. Did I miss? No, okay. I spelled that correctly. I don't know what's up with me. And then we're going to have another one for UI stuff. Header UI stuff. Very descriptive. I promise I understand it though. So I'm going to take my game data and my level, cut those and paste them underneath level information, and then I have my stars active here. I'm also going to make a reference to those 2 text boxes. So public text, we'll call this high score text, and public text star text. So I already have information about how many stars should be active, and this should probably go with the level stuff too. So now I'm going to make a little reference to tell me what the high score is. So I'm going to make this private integer high score. And then down here, when I'm loading in the data, after I decide what the stars active are, I'm going to decide what the high score is. High score is equal to GameData.SaveData.stars level -1. Okay, and now we have to make sure that these two text boxes reflect what they're supposed to. I'm just going to make another little method here. I'm going to call this setText, and I'm going to say that my high score text is equal to an empty string plus the high score, and my star text is equal to an empty string. I'm going to add to that empty string stars active. I'm going to add to this plus, this one's not going to be empty, it's going to have a backslash in it, plus we'll just put the integer 3. Actually, we can just put that 3 in here. Add a 3. Don't have to have that plus back there. And then semicolon to end my thought. Let's save that. Okay, cool. And then let's call setText from the start method. All right. So back in the Unity here, if I hit play, okay, this panel's active, the other ones aren't. I can't even click on them. If I click on panel 1, oh, I didn't set up the boxes correctly. So if I go back to my confirm panel here, I'm going to find my confirm panel script. I forgot to add my high score text and my star text to where they're supposed to be. So let's make sure that both of these are nicely labeled so it's easy to find. So in my confirm panel, high score text, star text, and then let's make the confirm panel disabled. Let's hit play. Alright, level 1. And it loaded the stars correctly, but it didn't load the high score. Am I grabbing the wrong high score? Oh, because I set the... That's weird. Why did I do that? It shouldn't be stars, it should be high score. Yeah, that's weird. That's why it was showing... Well, it still should have just showed a 0. Huh, okay. Well, anyway. Back here. Let's try this out and see if this works this time. So if I hit play, maybe. Alright, cool. Alright, there we go. There's our high score. And we have 1 out of 3 stars. And if we hit play, this is going to open up my first level. Now, let's fix that thing right there. Alright, so I want to change my scenes. So let me save everything in this scene first. And let's go to my scenes. I'm going to go to my main scene here. And what I want to do is this panel is inside my top UI, inside my fade panel, and inside my game intro panel. So I have my goals panel here. And I have my goal container right there. Right now, my goal container is controlling, or is forcing my child to expand on the width, and I don't want that. If I go to my prefabs, and I look at my goal prefab, its preferred width is 74. So I'm going to set that preferred width. And the way I'm going to do that is by adding a component to this. I'm going to add a layout element component. And a layout element is a way for you to have the thing that's inside the layout have a little bit of control over its size. So I'm going to give it a preferred width of 74.01, and I'm going to go back to my goals panel here, my goal container, and I'm not going to force the child to expand. So now if I hit play, it should still read the same level I was on before. And there we go. In fact, that's a little bit squished instead of being stretched. So let's give this a width of 100. And that's its preferred. The goal panel will do its best to conform to that, but it might need to change. But we're not going to force the child to expand. That's better. So I click OK. Now, I need to do the same thing for this panel up here. So let me turn off my fade panel for a second. And I want to do my goal container, and I don't want to force my child to expand. Let's turn my fade panel back on. Let's try this out now. Okay. And there we go. It's better. Okay, so I can't win this level, but I do want to take a look at my try again and my uWin panels. Let's do try again first. So I want to look at this button here, my OK button. Right now it's doing back to splash OK, and then what's my uWin panel going to? So opening up the uWin panel, OK button, back to splash OK. So I want to go to my endgame manager, and I want to go to my back to splash script, and right now it just loads that scene. So what I want to do is first change the scene that it's going to load, so that when I click OK, when I lose, it takes me back to the level select. The other thing I want to do is I want to access the game data, and I want to save. So right now my OK buttons on both the game over screen and the game win screen are leading to the same thing. So I want to change that. I want to have the two differentiate, because they're going to make some changes to the game data save data. So I want to change these two OK methods, and that's going to break our button for just a second. So I'm going to call this one win OK, and I'm going to call the next one lose OK. So public void lose OK. And we're going to do the same command to load the scene, but we're going to have something else up here that's going to reference that game data. Now the game data is going to be present in this scene because it's carried over from the previous one, because it isn't destroyed on load. So I'm going to make a reference to that. So private game data, I'm just going to call it game data. And then in my start method, I'm going to complete that reference. Game data equals find object of type game data. So then here is if we're winning. What I want to do is I want to take the current level that we're using, and I want to say that the next level is now unlocked. So in order to do that, I'm going to say, let's do it this way. We'll do if game data is not equal to null, then we're going to say that game data dot save data dot is active, and the is active we want to get is the same one that of the level we just loaded. So in order to do that, I'm going to grab some information from the board here. So private board. I'm going to complete that reference in the start method again. Board equals find object of type board, and then board dot level equals true. And we don't want this to be level, we want this to be level plus 1. So if the level was currently level 0, then level 1 is now active. If it was level 1, level 2 will be active, so on and so forth. We don't want to do that if we're losing. Now the other thing we want to do is we want to save some information in the score. So I'm going to go back to Unity here for a second, let that compile, make sure I didn't make any errors. While we're here, we might as well fix that, the two buttons. So my try again panel, the OK button is going to say that it doesn't know what it needs to do. So I'm going to pull from the endgame manager and back to splash, and lose OK. That's for the try again panel. For the you win panel's OK button, I'm going to grab my endgame manager, back to splash, and win OK. So I'm going to set my try again panel inactive for just a second, just to show you here. If I, okay, so you win, if I click OK, that should have known what to do. Let's try this out. Let's find out what the issue is. Okay, so here's the issue, is when we open that other scene, we're loading the data back in, and so it's loading the data that wasn't saved. So we need to save our data here really quickly. And we can do this GameData.save after we make the change. So if I save this and go back into Unity here and hit play, I'll see that you win panel come down. Okay, and if I click OK, okay, so now I've got my you win panel here. If I press OK, it'll take me back, and now level 2 is active, and I can access level 2. If I press OK, level 3 is active, and then this is where it's going to start getting funky, because yeah, okay, anyway. Okay, so the reason that it didn't work the last time I tried is because I didn't have my game data object in my main scene. I was just going into my main scene here as it was, and in my main scene I don't actually have the game data object. It carries with it from the splash scene, so that's why that wasn't working. But in here we got our win OK. If game data isn't null, then we're going to make the next level active and save. We're not going to do that in the lose OK method. And then we want to make sure that we're also saving our score. So let's just do that every time our score increases. Let's go to our score manager script. Here, score manager. Let's make a quick reference to our game data. So private game data, we'll call this game data. And I'm going to complete the reference down here. Find object of type, game data, and then let's see, whenever we update our score, we're going to do check to see if game data isn't null. And then if it's not null, then we're going to say that our GameData.SaveData.HighScores, and we want to do this for board.level is equal to score. Actually, we'll only do this if the current score is greater than that score. So if score is greater than, let's just make a temporary variable for this. So we'll say int HighScore is equal to GameData.SaveData.HighScores board.level. Okay, and then if score is greater than HighScore, then we're going to reset the HighScore. Why do you do that? There we go. So then we're going to say that, yeah, is equal to score. The other thing we want to do is then save the data. So GameData.save. So I'm going to try this out with some actual levels that can be beaten. I'm going to set those up, and I will be right back. Okay, so here we are. If I choose level 1, it'll tell me I have 1 star, high score of 10, but level 2 is inactive. So if I go to level 1 and hit play, these are my goals for level 1. This is the board I laid out, and clearly my canvas scaler needs a little bit of work, but so I just need to get 6 of the blue candies, So let's do that really quickly here. I might fast forward through this bit just to get to where I need to be. All right, cool. So now when I click OK on the UWin, level 2 is now open. Notice that I have 0 as my high score. Let's go in. I need 2 blue candies, and then I need to get, oh geez, I said 5 of those and I only put 4 in the level. So this is unwinnable. But I'm just going to trigger a UWin anyway. So I'll do that by going into my top UI, my fade panel, my UWin panel, and just make that active. So when I click on OK, this takes me back here. Now if I look at panel 2, it tells me that my high score was 300. Panel 1, my high score was also 300. Panel 3, hey, it doesn't know what the correct high score is. Let's fix that. So if I go into my confirm panel script here, high score equals game data, save data, high scores. So am I saving it incorrectly in the score manager? Board.level equals score. Score is greater than high scores. GameData.save. So then my confirm panel. Let's change this from start to on enable, and let's check that. There we go. Okay, that fixes that. So by the confirm panel, by changing this to on enable, start must only be called. I thought start was called every time the scene was loaded, but I guess it's not. So just changing this to be on enable is going to be better. Oh yeah, that makes sense. So what was happening before when I had it on start gets called when this scene is loaded, and then when I hit, that button, it used the same one that it knew from when start was created. It didn't actually create a new one, and so then it would use the same one here and the same one here. So I just changed that code from start to on enable, and that fixed it. Okay, I know this has been a rough one. I have something about animating the pieces that's going to come up next, and then we're going to have probably 2 or 3 episodes of bug fixes and optimizing for Android, because I know a couple people have had issues when they optimize it or when they build it for Android with it running a little slow or taking a while to load. So we're going to look at how we can optimize it for Android. So yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I have my Twitter down below. If you want to join the Discord server where I'm chatting pretty much every day, I have a link to that down below as well as a link to the current version of the project. So have yourself a wonderful day.